started exporting, and other countries that started exporting, even started exporting because they were not exporting before.
Hi guys, welcome back. Now the time is 17 o'clock 15.
So there is
The date of today is last day of November 30th, November
some of the
2023.
I don't know whether they may teach indirectly some countries to become better in the long run, so they may be in a way a learning opportunity.
That is a possible argument, but I mean, one of the things we've learned from the experience of industrial policies is, yes, there are some rare successes, though one cannot really clearly identify the source of the success, but there are many, many cases of countries that attempt to develop one particular industry, and that ends up with huge amounts of distortions, and one sector that's getting way too much support relative to other sectors. And you just cannot, there's no end date for it. You just continuously are supporting the sector for a very long time. So you can end up with misallocation of resources, as would be the counter argument to the argument that you end up with developing certain sectors, and therefore because of that, by learning by doing, you can end up with improving your growth and maybe even productivity. So I'm, more skeptical about these kinds of forced industrial policies being used by many countries. It's just what would be needed if everybody decided we start changing trading blocks in a pretty dramatic way. So it's a mixed bag, I would say. There are countries that are making that argument. By the way, there are more and more countries who are reshoring also because they are worried about the political environment that they're in. But that is coming at a cost for many of them. Firstly, there's obviously an immediate fiscal cost to it. There is the risk of misallocation of resources, loss of competition that comes with it. So on the plus side, yes, there are market failures that generate learning by doing and so on. That can help. Whether at the end of the day we end up with, initially things can be pretty bad, but over time things get better because countries develop expertise in sectors where we didn't have the expertise, I'm not 100% sure about this, though. I think there are forces that go in different directions.
Thank you, Jakob Hensing from the Global Public Policy Institute here in Berlin. I was intrigued by the second part of your sort of dual prescription at the end of, on the one hand, deepening the single market, and on the other hand, continue advocating for a rules-based global trading system. And I was just wondering whether you could elaborate a bit on what specifically Europe can do in that regard. I mean, beyond kind of leading by example and not deliberately embracing policies that go against that spirit, and how much influence does it really have on the global stage anymore? I mean, I sort of often encounter that attitude here in Berlin that we don't really want to do activist industrial policy, but we're being forced to do it by sort of living in a world where the two key players have basically embraced the relative gains logic, and I mean, we'll be lost if we don't follow on some level.
Yeah, I think the point of my lecture was also to say, was to basically say that Europe should have its own unique response to the risks of supply chain breaking down and conflicts and so on, because given how unique it is also relative to the US and China in terms of its ecosystem, it really should have its own unique response. So basically, to your point, that a bandwagon effect is not a great way to go, because the EU is quite different from these two parts of the world. The EU has a tremendous impact in terms of global policy. I do believe we are still in a world where there is broad recognition of the benefits from integration among the major economies. And I think that's precisely why you have meetings and summits where you don't want to go down a slippery slope. And in that context, when the Europe speaks out on the benefits of integration, I think that's a very powerful voice, cautioning voice on other countries. In terms of its specific policies, I also talked about what's on its climate policies is to ensure it's WTO compliant. And of course, anything that's done on industrial policies within the country or any state aid policies has to be compliant with the single market state aid rules. And that has been temporarily relaxed, but I think it is important to make sure that that is truly temporarily relaxed, and doesn't happen on an ongoing basis.
Great. Maybe you've time for Daniel for 2 quick questions, and starting with Daniel here, third row on the right. And one in the back, yeah.
Great. Thanks a lot, Gita, for your speech. I want to come back to the last question. Since the fragmentation we are seeing is really not fragmentation in general, but it's basically US, China. And anybody not involved in the fight between the two, commercial fight, would actually gain, right? The general theorem, if the two erect trade barriers among themselves, our companies become more competitive on both markets. So should we not just sit there then, enjoy the trade barriers between the US and China?
I mean, there is very much this sentiment among some countries, especially emerging and developing, some of them, we feel like they benefit from this rivalry because then they get to become more attractive destinations for investment, more attractive destinations of supply, right? I think the way that one wants to think about it is that if this fragmentation and realignment is happening at a relatively small scale, then it's absolutely right. There are countries that will benefit from this change in this rivalry. But if we go down the slippery slope and we end up with many more countries getting fragmented in different ways, then you just end up with a smaller pie, right? So there is the initial phase where the pie might get a little bit smaller, but you get a bigger share of the pie, and then you're better off. But you can very easily get into the space where the pie shrinks enough that even if you get a bigger share of it, you're worse off. So we're not there. We're certainly not there. But I do think that we have to make sure that we don't get there. I don't think that can be taken for granted.
So final question, third row from the back on the right front.
Hello, my name is Ulrich Hemmel. I'm from the Global Ethics Institute in Tübingen, and I very much enjoyed your talk. And I refer to the 3,000 trade restrictions and the 750 measures for making it easier. So I think there must be something, and there is something like a decreasing value added of restriction. If there is such a thing as a decreasing value added of trade restrictions, then we should expect in the future a time of more trade and global cooperation, something even which could go first in the sense of a deblocking. Do you think there is evidence for that, and can you give a timeline for that? Of course, this is a very easy question, as you see, but anyway, I think it's interesting to see what is the evidence and what are the measures for learning better the decreasing value added of trade restrictions. Thank you.
I don't have the answer to your question. It tends to be that sometimes bad policies, everybody goes down the road of bad policies, we overshoot, and then at some point we all realize this was a terrible path we went through, and then we rectify it all. How long before that happens, or what do we have to see before something like that reversion happens? I don't know. We still are, I guess I would just to end on a somewhat positive note, is that I think we're still in the space where we can hope that this is all okay. This resilience building that requires some reorientation of trade. But we're not throwing out efficiency fully out the window. But again, given the developments we're seeing around the world, given the conflicts that keep appearing, I would not take it for granted that we would settle at a good equilibrium, that I think there is the real risk of having serious decoupling.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Gita. And before we give a final round of applause and final congratulations to you for this prize. Let me say that the doors will open and there will be a reception, and we're very grateful to the Gates Foundation for making that possible. But now, Gita, thanks so much. We're very honored, and congratulations to the Bernhard Hansberg.
Well, folks, the clouds have rolled back in and the sweaters have come back out, which means fall is officially underway. That's right, we're trading beaches and barbecues for blankets and bonfires, and with that, the music changes too. So let's ease you into the fall with the next hour something of instrumental bliss. So stay warm, stay cozy, and most of all, stay chill.
Okay, that's right. Today is extremely bright day. Cannot tell the reason. I don't think that's essential one way at one of the reason. But absolutely, I need lots of time to clean the room and all this stuff up. And Okay. I got I don't want to actually open everything with I, but let's not talk directly into the models.
There's value in the word, 12 figure out the real. We're juggling and wrestling thoughts in my mind. The influence was heavy, all the faults even mine. Labels still persuading like I'm needing a dime. And my people ain't be dying over gold in the mines. It's funny, right? I'm still numb to the trauma. I couldn't tell if my joy was out of love or what would haunt me when I needed me a hug. That's the realest. Yeah, it's the closest thing to feeling. Yeah, it's the only thing revealing. Trying to get me closer to the Lord. Cause maybe He can open up some doors while these words get to show you all my flaws. It's poetry and pain, blessing in the chain, pictures I could paint. Yeah, it's poetry and pain, blessings in the chain, pictures I could paint. Yeah, it's poetry and pain, blessing in the chain, pictures I could paint. Yeah, it's poetry and pain, blessings in the chain, pictures I could paint. Now I've been calling and starting and falling, go again. Time is so precious, a blessing, don't mess it up all again. Money keep coming and going and coming and going again. Loving is true, it don't go into stay and go again.
Hallo, guten Tag. Wie bitte? Also ich habe mehrere Wohnungen gesucht. Ich weiß nicht, welche Ihr Wohnungen sind, aber zurzeit suche ich eine Wohnung oder Zimmer in der Nähe von FU, weil ich zurzeit dort studiere und, VWL. Reinickendorf, 3 Stunden ungefähr. 45, okay. Okay, war es der, Foto, das mit einem Warmlicht gezeigt haben auf dem war das der Wohnung, mit der Holz Boden und so weiter, ausgestattet ist auf dem Foto, nämlich der Anzeige gezeigt haben? Also, okay, mhm, mhm. Und, aber ist das Bad und Küche inklusiv beziehungsweise? Okay, müsste man das mit anderen teilen oder kann man so eine nutzen? Okay. Ja, und gibt's vielleicht eine Zimmer, das für die Sachen, also Storage Room oder so, gibt's so was? Also alle Sachen für, privat und muss man so in einem Zimmer, legen quasi, oder? Ach so, dann ist das 13 Quadratmeter. Ich weiß nicht, weil ich habe ziemlich viele Sachen und ich weiß nicht, ob das, in einem Zimmer einpasst, aber natürlich, hätte ich gerne, mit diesem Zimmer zu vermieten. Ähm, obwohl es ein bisschen weit ist und habe ich vorgestellt, dass in der Nähe, FU ist, wäre es besser, weil ich bin täglich zur Uni und, Mhm. Ja, aber es ist okay und